There comes a moment in your life when everything you've heard, everything you've read, and everything you've hoped for suddenly becomes real. Not because someone told you it's real, but because you finally dared to test it for yourself. That moment is powerful. That moment is sacred. That moment changes you forever. And once it happens, you can never go back to doubting again. You may have heard that imagination creates reality. You may have heard that your inner world is the cause and the outer world is its effect. But hearing it is not enough. Believing it because someone else believes it is not enough. Hoping it's true is not enough. The truth becomes alive only when you step forward with courage, turn inward, and say, let me see what happens if I try this. Let me test it. That is the moment everything begins to shift. There's a beautiful saying, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It reminds you that what is unseen is not unreal. What is invisible is not imaginary. What you hold inside, your feeling, your assumption, your inner acceptance, has weight, has substance, and holds the blueprint of your future. But how do you know this for yourself? You know when you dare to test it. Think about a time in your life when you wanted something so deeply, and for a moment, maybe a small one, you allowed yourself to believe it could really happen. Maybe you pictured yourself already having it. Maybe you imagined the relief, the joy, the gratitude. Maybe you fell asleep with that feeling, and then somehow the outer world shifted. Something moved, something aligned, something changed that seemed too perfect to be coincidence. That was the whisper of truth saying, yes, this works. Test it again. Your imagination is not just a daydreaming tool. It is the creative power of your life. Every time you assume something to be true, you set a spiritual law in motion. Every time you claim something in feeling, you open the door for its appearance in form. But you only understand this deeply when you experiment with it. You don't need permission. You don't need a special spiritual title. You don't need rituals. All you need is willingness. The moment you test it, you will know. Imagine someone who is struggling with money. They try everything on the outside, working harder, stressing more, worrying constantly, but nothing changes. Then one day they sit quietly and decide to try something different. They imagine the feeling of abundance, not the numbers, not the bank account, but the feeling, the relief, the safety, the gratitude of knowing all is well. They practice feeling it until it becomes natural. And then, slowly or suddenly, opportunities show up. A new job, an unexpected payment, a solution appearing out of nowhere. Someone might call it luck, but the one who tested it knows better. They know it came from the shift within. Or imagine someone longing for love. They may feel lonely, rejected, or unchosen. But inside, something whispers, try the inner way, just try. So they close their eyes and imagine the warmth of companionship, the sweetness of being valued, the comfort of belonging. They walk through their day feeling chosen, feeling wanted, feeling loved, before anything in the outer world changes. And then the outer world responds. A message appears, a new connection arrives, or a relationship softens and renews. To others it seems magical. To the one who tested it, it feels natural. There is also the person who battles self-doubt. They may feel small, unseen, or unimportant, but they decide to test this inner law by assuming something new about themselves. They begin to imagine they are capable, worthy, confident, guided. They walk with a different posture, speak with a different tone, expect different outcomes. And life begins to reflect their new assumption like a mirror. The opportunities they were blind to suddenly become visible. The doors they believed were locked suddenly open. The compliments they once brushed off now feel deserved. They tested it and now they know. This is not magic in the sense of tricks or illusions. It is deeper, older, truer. Your inner state is creative. Your assumption, sustained, accepted, felt, is a seed, and every seed knows what it must become. When you plant the feeling of the wish fulfilled within yourself, its harvest must appear in your world. The timing may differ, the method may surprise you, but the result is certain. There is a quiet line when you pray, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Notice it does not say believe after you see it. It says believe you have received, which means the receiving happens first inside you. The physical world follows. But again, you discover the truth of this only when you test it. Testing is simple. You don't need hours of meditation. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to force anything. You only need to imagine the end, what you truly desire, and accept it as done, even if only for a few moments. Feel its reality. Feel its truth. Feel the relief of already having it. Then carry that feeling gently through your day. You may be surprised how fast things shift. You may be surprised how quietly they shift. Sometimes the world rearranges itself without any effort from you. Sometimes people change their behavior toward you. Sometimes opportunities drop effortlessly into your lap. And sometimes the change happens inside you first. Your peace deepens, your confidence grows, your fears dissolve, and then the outer world mirrors it perfectly. The moment you test it, you will know. One of the most beautiful realizations you will ever have is this: you are not at the mercy of the world. You are not helpless. You are not waiting on circumstances to improve before you can feel better or move forward. You have a creative power within you that is always active, always shaping, always responding to what you assume to be true. When you finally accept this, even a little, life becomes softer, brighter, more meaningful. You may ask, what if I test it and nothing happens? But something always happens. Sometimes the only thing that needs to shift is your belief that you are heard, that you are seen, that you are supported. Sometimes the first result is inner peace, and then the outer change follows naturally. Sometimes the result is delayed only because you return to old assumptions too quickly. But every test plants a seed, and every seed grows in its own perfect rhythm. Be gentle yourself. You are learning a new way of being. You are discovering a truth that many people go their entire lives without recognizing. You are stepping into the role of creator, not victim. That alone is a miracle. So test it. Imagine receiving good news. Imagine a message from someone you care about. Imagine a smooth day. Imagine unexpected favor. Imagine abundance. Imagine healing. Imagine peace. Imagine breakthroughs. And then watch how life rises to meet the assumption you held within. Once you experience even a single result, one undeniable moment where your inner world produces an outer reflection, you will never again doubt the power within you. You may forget from time to time, as all humans do. You may slip into old patterns for a moment, but something inside will always whisper, come back. You know the truth now. You tested it. You saw it. You felt it. And you know. You will no longer ask, is this real? You will ask, what am I assuming now? You will no longer say, I hope things work out. You will say, I choose what I accept within. You will no longer feel powerless. You will walk with quiet dignity, knowing your inner world is the birthplace of every outer change. Conversation between your imagination and your reality, and you become the one directing that conversation with love, with intention, with faith. So allow yourself to step into this truth gently. Allow yourself to test it in ways that matter to you. Allow yourself to dream boldly and feel the fulfillment of those dreams within. And as you do, you will discover what countless others have discovered before you. The moment you test it, you will know. And once you know, everything changes forever. You may begin to notice that life itself becomes more responsive the moment you shift your inner assumption. What once felt heavy begins to feel lighter. What once felt out of reach begins to feel natural. What once felt impossible begins to stand just a step away from you. And the beauty of this inner law is that it doesn't require force. It doesn't require strain. It only requires acceptance. Acceptance is the key. When you accept something internally, when you feel its truth without arguing against it, you open the door for its arrival. Many people struggle not because they lack power, but because they constantly argue with their own desires. They say they want abundance, but they assume lack. They say they want love, but they assume rejection. They say they want transformation, but they assume their past defines them. The moment they stop fighting with themselves and accept the inner change, the outer change begins. This is why testing the inner law becomes so life-changing. You begin to see how often your own assumptions have been speaking for you, shaping your days, influencing your experiences, even when you weren't aware of it. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You start catching yourself. You start noticing the quiet inner conversations happening beneath the surface. You start becoming aware of the inner dialogue that runs through your mind when no one is listening. And that awareness is power, because you cannot change what you are unaware of. But the moment you become aware, the moment you notice the old assumption, you can choose a new one. You can say within yourself, no, that is not who I am anymore. I choose differently now. And every time you choose differently, you strengthen the new state. You water it, you feed it, you give it life. It may feel strange at first. It may feel unfamiliar to walk in the feeling of what you desire before it arrives. But that is the essence of the law. You must feel the end before the beginning becomes visible. You must claim the reality inwardly before it appears outwardly. It's like planting a seed. You don't stand over the soil demanding instant proof. You trust the process. You trust the unseen growth. You trust the natural unfolding. And before long, the result emerges. People often ask whether imagination is enough. They worry. Do I need to take action? Do I need to force something to happen? But inspired action flows naturally from the state you occupy. When you feel abundant inside, you naturally act from abundance. When you feel loved inside, you naturally behave like someone who is loved. When you feel confident inside, opportunities that once felt intimidating suddenly feel simple. You do not force these behaviors. They emerge from the state itself. This is why inner work is never wasted. Even when it seems like nothing is happening, something is happening. Your assumption is rooting itself. Your inner world is rearranging. Your beliefs are shifting. Your emotions are softening. And the outer world is preparing to reflect all of this back to you in ways you may not yet understand. Every great change in your life begins in a quiet moment. One moment of acceptance, one moment of imagination, one moment of feeling the reality of your desire. You do not need hours of concentration. You simply need sincerity. You simply need willingness. You simply need to allow yourself to feel the truth of what you want without doubt pulling you back. And when the outer world finally mirrors what you have accepted within, you will smile, not out of surprise, but out of recognition. Because deep down, you will know you created. You will know the moment it started. You will know the moment the seed was planted. And you will know how to plant another. This knowledge brings freedom. You stop fearing the future because you realize you are shaping it from within. You stop replaying the past because you realize you are no longer bound to it. You stop wishing for luck because you realize you are the source. And you stop waiting for change because you realize you can begin the change now, within yourself, in the privacy of your own mind. When you test this inner law, you become calm in ways others may not understand. You become patient, not because you are waiting, but because you already feel the outcome. You become peaceful, not because everything is perfect yet, but because you know it will be. You become confident, not because you are pretending, but because you are rooted in a truth you have experienced firsthand. And this inner shift is so gentle, so loving, so transformative, that others may notice something different about you. They may feel your calmness, your assurance, your lightness. They may sense that you are no longer battling life, but dancing with it. They may see doors opening for you, opportunities flowing, relationships harmonizing, and they may ask what changed, and you will know the answer. You changed inside first. This is the power that belongs to you. This is the inheritance you were born with. This is the gift that has always been waiting for you to use. Once you claim it, once you test it, once you feel its truth, it becomes a part of who you are. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to debate. You don't need approval. You simply live from the inner knowing that your imagination is the creative force of your life. You will begin to notice small things aligning, tiny confirmations that the inner movement is working, a word you needed to hear, a message that arrives unexpectedly, a sudden idea that feels right, a shift in someone's tone, a coincidental meeting, a new opportunity. These are gentle reminders that the law is responding. They are signs of alignment, not because the world is random, but because it is obedient to your inner acceptance. The moment you realize this, you become deeply empowered, not loud, not controlling, not forceful, but quietly powerful, softly certain, deeply guided. And this quiet confidence becomes the foundation for every part of your life, your relationships, your career, your well-being, your dreams, your future. And as you continue to test it, your faith grows, your trust grows, your certainty grows. You no longer wonder whether what you imagine is possible. You begin to understand that the inner world is the true world and the outer world is its reflection. You become the one who moves first within, and life responds faithfully without. Whenever you're ready, I can continue more, create a conclusion whenever you ask, or expand any section further. You may begin to notice that the more you practice entering the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the more natural it becomes. At first, it might feel like a deliberate act, something you consciously pause to do. But as you continue, something beautiful happens. It becomes your default state. You begin to wake up with a subtle sense of expectation, a quiet inner assurance that good things are unfolding for you. This isn't forced optimism, it isn't pretending, it's the natural result of living from the inner truth instead of outer appearances. And as this inner steadiness grows, you become less disturbed by temporary circumstances. Something that once would have shaken you suddenly loses its power. You look at challenges with new eyes. You say within yourself, this is only the shadow. The reality is my assumption, and the shadow will eventually match the light I hold within. This kind of inner stability is something many people long for, without knowing how to find it. But it comes easily once you begin testing the law for yourself. The more you test it, the more you see patterns. You begin to notice that every outer manifestation has an inner root. Every outcome has a corresponding state you once accepted. Every breakthrough you receive has a moment in your past when you imagined or assumed it, maybe lightly, maybe deeply, but you touched it inwardly before it appeared outwardly. This recognition becomes one of the most empowering moments of your life because you begin to understand that nothing you desire is truly out of reach. You are not waiting for life to choose you, you are choosing the life you want to live. People often wonder how long it takes for an inner assumption to solidify into physical experience, but time is not the real factor. The only thing that matters is the depth of acceptance. When you fully accept something inside, even for a few moments, it carries more creative power than hours of forced imagining. A moment of true belief is far more potent than many hours of mechanical thinking. The law responds to sincerity, not strain. And sincerity comes from ease, from gentleness, from allowing yourself to relax into the feeling of your desired reality. When you imagine, you do it warmly, lovingly, without pressure. You rest in the feeling. You breathe into it. You allow it to wrap around you like a comfort. That inner softness teaches you more than any outer struggle ever could. As you continue practicing, you may also notice something else. Your desires begin to purify. They become clearer, more aligned with who you truly are. Some things you thought you wanted might fall away naturally, not because they were unattainable, but because you realized they were coming from fear, insecurity, or comparison. Meanwhile, the desires that remain become more meaningful, more powerful, and more authentic. These desires feel like whispers from your highest self, calling you toward a life that reflects your true nature. And the more you honor these inner whispers, the more the world opens for you. You find yourself guided effortlessly toward the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. Life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a dance. You start recognizing that you are not walking alone. There is a rhythm, a flow, a divine intelligence that moves with you, responds to you, and aligns everything you need the moment you accept it within. This becomes especially evident in relationships. When you shift your inner assumption, people respond differently. You may notice someone suddenly treating you with more kindness, more respect, more affection. You may notice old tensions dissolving without a word being spoken. You may notice new connections entering your life with ease and harmony, reflecting the love you finally accepted within yourself. It is not manipulation, it is resonance. People reflect the state you occupy, and in your work or career, the same law applies. When you assume value, you begin to feel worthy of opportunities you once feared. When you assume success, ideas flow. When you assume competence, you speak differently, carry yourself differently, and others respond accordingly. Suddenly, doors that felt sealed shut begin to open, as if they were waiting for you the entire time. And the truth is, they were. We'll also see this inner law work in the smallest moments of your day. You might imagine a peaceful morning and find yourself gliding through the hours with calmness. You might imagine receiving kindness and suddenly someone offers you help. You might imagine a smooth commute and everything aligns perfectly. These small manifestations are precious. They teach you consistency. They teach you trust. They teach you that the universe listens to even your lightest assumptions. As this inner journey continues, something even deeper unfolds. You begin to feel whole inside, not perfect, not without challenges, but whole. You begin to understand that you are the source, not the seeker. You begin to feel that everything you desire already exists within you. You no longer chase outcomes. You express them. You no longer wait for change. You initiate it with your inner acceptance. This realization softens your entire being. You become kinder to yourself. You forgive yourself quickly. You release old burdens. You let go of old stories. You stop identifying with the wounds you've carried and begin identifying with the power that has always been within you. And from this place, life becomes beautifully simple, beautifully guided, beautifully responsive. You may even begin to feel gratitude before the manifestation arrives. Not forced gratitude, not gratitude as a technique, but a natural, effortless gratitude that arises the moment you feel the inner fulfillment. This kind of gratitude is a sign that you are on right path. It means you have touched the end state deeply enough that it feels real to you. And once it feels real, the outer world has no choice but to conform. Everything responds to the state you occupy. Everything is shaped by what you accept as true. Everything you experience begins first as an inner movement. And once you see this clearly, even once, you will never again live life the same way. As you continue living with this awareness, you begin to see how much of your past was created unconsciously. You realize that many of the situations you once blamed on fate, luck, or circumstance were actually reflections of assumptions you didn't even know you were holding. This recognition is not meant to bring guilt, it brings liberation. Because if your past was created unconsciously, your future can be created consciously. You no longer feel trapped by old patterns because you now understand their origin. And when you understand the cause, the effect loses its power over you. You start catching yourself the moment an old belief tries to return. Maybe you feel doubt rising, or fear whispering, or old memory trying to convince you that things won't change. But now, instead of accepting those thoughts as truth, you pause. You breathe. You shift inward. You gently return to the state of your desire fulfilled. You remind yourself that the inner world, not the outer, is the creative stage. And with that awareness, the old belief dissolves like mist fading in the morning sun. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You begin to navigate your life with a sense of inner mastery. You move through challenges with clarity instead of panic. When something undesirable appears in your outer world, you no longer impulsively. You observe it, acknowledge it, and quietly remind yourself that it is only the echo of a previous assumption. You know that a new assumption, held faithfully, will rewrite the script. And this gives you a deep sense of inner calm that others may not understand but will certainly feel. This new awareness also changes the way you speak. Your words become more intentional, more aligned, more rooted in the state you wish to embody. You stop telling stories that keep you stuck. You stop repeating phrases like, "I always have bad luck," or "things never work for me," because you understand the power of such statements. Instead, you begin speaking from your chosen state, not boastfully, not forcefully, but confidently and quietly. Your self-talk becomes nurturing. Your inner conversations become supportive. And your outer world begins to reflect this inner dialogue with remarkable precision. You may also find that your intuition sharpens. You begin to sense things before they happen. You start feeling guided towards certain decisions and effortlessly steered away from others. Ideas come to you in moments of stillness, clarity rises without strain, and solutions appear in ways you would never have logically planned. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. When your inner world is in harmony, your outer world becomes synchronized with it, and life begins to unfold with a kind of grace that can't be explained in ordinary terms. Sometimes the outer changes, appear subtly, unfolding like a gentle breeze. Other times they appear dramatically, shifting your life in ways that surprise even you. But either way, you begin to notice that the rhythm of your life responds to your inner acceptance more faithfully than it does to your outer effort. You may work, you may act, you may take steps, but the power behind those steps comes from the state you occupy, not the work itself. Effort without alignment feels heavy. Action from the fulfilled state feels effortless. That difference is everything. As this awareness settles deeper into your heart, your desires no longer feel distant or intimidating. They feel close, intimate, familiar, You begin to treat them not as something you're trying to achieve, but as something already yours, something you are simply welcoming into visibility. You walk through your day holding the inner knowing quietly, like a secret melody only you can hear. You smile, or you breathe more freely. You trust the process, because you know the process begins within you. Even the way you see others begins to transform. You no longer view people as obstacles or threats. You see them as mirrors, as participants in the play of your inner world. When someone shows you kindness, you recognize it as a reflection of your inner harmony. When someone challenges you, you look within and ask yourself what assumption might have invited that experience, and then you shift it. You become less reactive and more responsive. You begin to understand that your relationships are shaped not by their actions, but by your assumptions about them and about yourself. You start to develop a deep sense of compassion, not only for others, but for yourself. You see how your old patterns were formed. You see how fear shaped parts of your life. You understand why you once doubted, why you once felt unworthy, why you once believed the world was against you. And instead of judging your past self, you embrace them, you forgive them, you honor them for surviving with the knowledge they had. This compassion becomes a healing force, softening old wounds and allowing love to flow where fear once lived. As you continue to test this inner law, you begin to witness a beautiful transformation. Your desire and your identity start to merge. What you once longed for becomes what you naturally expect. What you once reached for becomes what you assume. What you once imagined with effort becomes the truth you carry effortlessly. This shift is subtle but profound. It marks the moment when your inner state stabilizes, when your assumption becomes your new home, when your old limitations fade like distant echoes. And when this happens, life begins to respond in ways that feel almost magical. But to you, it won't feel like magic. It will feel like clarity, like truth, like the natural outcome of your inner acceptance. You will recognize that this was always how life was meant to work, from within outward, from assumption to expression, from belief to embodiment. Whenever you're ready, I can continue, deepen certain sections, or shift the direction in any way you like. As this inner transformation grows, you may notice a gentle separation forming between who you used to be and who you are becoming. Not a painful separation, an empowering one. You begin to witness your old self from a distance, recognizing that the fears, doubts, and limitations you once carried no longer fit the person you are now. It feels as though you are shedding an old garment, something heavy and worn, and stepping into a version of yourself that feels lighter, clearer, more aligned with your true essence. This shift happens quietly. There is no dramatic announcement, no sudden burst of fireworks. Instead, it unfolds like the morning light that grows brighter second by second, almost unnoticed, until you realize the entire room has been transformed. You start to feel more like yourself than you ever have before. And with that feeling comes a deep sense of belonging, a knowing that you are finally aligned with the truth of who you were always meant to be. You also begin to discover a new relationship with silence. What once felt empty now feels rich. What once felt uncomfortable now feels grounding. You find yourself seeking moments of stillness, because in that stillness you can hear your inner guidance more clearly. You can sense the direction of your desires. You can feel the reality of your wish fulfilled with more intensity. Silence becomes a sanctuary where you reconnect with your power, where you remember who you are, and where the vision of your future becomes vivid and alive. The world around you begins to respond to this inner clarity. You may notice that situations that once felt chaotic now unfold with ease. You walk into places you've been before, but the energy feels different because you are different. You engage in conversations that used to drain you, but then now you navigate them with grace. You encounter challenges that once overwhelmed you, but now you handle them with calm confidence. This isn't because life stopped presenting difficulties, it's because your state has changed, and everything is filtered through that change. Even the timing of things begins to feel more precise. You start noticing synchronicities, those perfectly aligned moments that seem too intentional to be random. A message arriving at just the right moment, an opportunity appearing exactly when you felt ready, a door opening right after you made an inner shift. These moments reassure you that the inner and outer worlds are always dancing together, responding to one another, shaping one another. And the more you align inwardly, the more harmonious and meaningful these synchronicities become. There is something deeply powerful about watching your outer world reflect your inner work. It strengthens your faith. It sharpens your awareness. It deepens your trust in the unseen. You begin to understand that the unseen is not a mystery. It is the blueprint, the foundation, the root of everything visible. And once you truly grasp this, you no longer underestimate the importance of your inner state. You begin to honor it. You begin to protect it. You begin to cultivate it with intention. You may also notice that your desires become more refined. Instead of wanting things out of fear, fear of missing out, fear of being alone, fear of being unworthy, you begin wanting things from a place of fullness, from joy, from inspiration, from curiosity. This shift in motivation changes everything. When your desire is rooted in love rather than fear, the path to its fulfillment becomes smooth. There is no resistance, no desperation, no grasping. You simply allow the desire to unfold naturally, trusting that what is meant for you will meet you effortlessly. And as your desires refine, so does your identity. You begin stepping into the version of yourself that already has what you want. You walk as though your dreams have already manifested. You speak as though your inner world is your reality. You carry yourself with a quiet certainty that doesn't need validation because the truth lives within you. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the natural expression of someone who knows that inner acceptance is the true beginning of all creation. As this inner alignment deepens, you may also feel inspired to release things that no longer match your new state. Old habits fall away without struggle. Old patterns lose their pull. People who resonated with your former state may naturally drift, and new people who match your current vibration begin to enter. You don't force any of it. It happens naturally as a reflection of the shift within you. Just as a radio station cannot broadcast two frequencies at once, your life cannot reflect two states at once. When you step into the new, the old fades gently into the background. And with each passing day, your awareness grows sharper. You begin to understand your inner power with greater clarity. You begin to see how simple the process truly is when you are consistent. You begin realizing that the world is not something happening to you, it is something happening through you. Your assumptions are the author, and your experiences are the pages. Once you grasp this, you awaken to a level of freedom that few people ever experience. This freedom does not make you detached from life. It makes you deeply engaged with it. You start appreciating the beauty in small things because you understand they are reflections of your inner state. You begin noticing opportunities you never saw before because your mind is no longer clouded by doubt. You start feeling grateful not only for the manifestations that have arrived, but for the ones that are forming, the ones that are moving toward you, the ones that already exist in your inner world. If you'd like, I can continue the script further in the same tone and depth, still without any conclusion. And now, as you stand here with this truth alive within you, let this be the moment everything shifts. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. Because you finally allowed yourself to believe in the quiet power that has always been yours. Because you dared to test it, to feel it, to trust it, even when the outer world gave you no proof. That single act of courage, of choosing the inner over the outer, has already begun rewriting your life in ways you cannot yet see but will soon witness. Carry this truth with you gently, but carry it with certainty. Your imagination is not a fantasy, it is the birthplace of reality. Your assumptions are not wishful thinking, they are seeds becoming form. Your desires are not accidents, they are invitations from the highest part of you. And the moment you test this power, even a little, you awaken to who you truly are. Walk now in the feeling of fulfillment. Move as someone who knows the inner world is the cause. Live as someone who trusts the unseen. Speak as someone who already possesses the promise. And watch as life, in its perfect timing and perfect order, rise to meet the state you have chosen within. For once you've tested it, once you've felt the shift, once you've seen even a single reflection of your inner assumption, you can never again doubt the truth. You are the creator of your experience. And from this moment forward, nothing will ever be the same.